You've been a pro runner for several years now, and you've been an Olympian and you're racking up these plaudits. But before you were pro, you were at Florida State dominating. So for those of us who don't necessarily like understand the pipeline so much, what changes when you go from FSU to the professional ranks? Like, what are the decisions you have to make? What are the new things you have to contend with?
Yeah, actually, gosh, Adam, that is such an interesting question. I love that you started off with that because this is actually something my training partner and I have been kind of a project we have in the works because, track and field is not a super mainstream sport. We don't have a draft like NFL or something. So it's kind of weird when you like want to turn pro after college in track and field. A lot of people have the same questions of like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? How do I get a sponsor? How do I figure out what my agent options are? Who are my coaching options? Who should I train with? There's so many questions. And I feel like I got really lucky where I went to FSU. I was a national champion there, and I was by no means the first national champion, that FSU got to claim. It was a very decorated program. My coach had coached Olympians in my event before. And so I feel like I had such good guidance about like, here, this is Shalane Flanagan. Go talk to her. She'll know how to help you. And here are your options for teams and agents. And so I had so many resources and so many people to kind of talk to because it was totally new for me, totally new for my parents. But there's a lot of people who come out of school who might come from smaller schools who, they just don't have, they might be the first person from their smaller school who'd said, hey, I want to be a pro runner. Like, how do I do that? And so it's definitely a passion of mine as I get to the later stages of my career to figure out a way to kind of help that process be a little bit more clear, and give those athletes some support, to kind of figure it out so that they, A, don't make kind of big mistakes, but B, like, I think we're missing out on athletes who could become part of Team USA, but they fall through the cracks because we don't have a super strong infrastructure set up to help them. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but it's definitely something, yeah, I'm passionate about.
Amazing. Well, I unlocked something already. Nice. One
Yeah.
question deep. One question in. I nailed it, I guess. Awesome.
No one
But
ever asked me that. That was a great question.
killer. All right, great. We'll wrap it up. I think we're done. No, I think we're good. You're a Lululemon sponsored athlete as well. And one of the things that strikes me about this professional world is you have to choose your sponsorship, and that's where you are right now. How did you navigate that landscape, landing with Lulu, and sort of what's that relationship been like since you've begun that?
Yeah, another great question. So when I went pro in 2015, I started training with a group in Portland, Oregon called the Bowerman Track Club. And the BTC for short is sponsored by Nike. So if you want to train with them, you have to be sponsored by Nike. So that's what I did for the first, I guess it was 6 years of my professional career. And then that kind of ran its course. As like any athlete, you like kind of you get what you need from a certain situation, and then you kind of outgrow it, and it's pretty common to move on. And that was definitely the case with me. And I think my relationship with Nike had also kind of run its course, and I was looking for something different. I wasn't looking for like the rah, just do it, win at all costs, like kind of mentality anymore. I was, looking for something a little bit more well-rounded, a little more, sees me as a whole human being. Yes, I'm an athlete. Yes, I'm an Olympian, but I also am passionate about, women's sports and mental health, and social well-being and running as a community and like all these things. And I didn't really feel that Nike cared about those things the way that I did. So when that relationship ran its course, I was out there looking for, a brand that just saw things differently. And I felt so lucky that Lululemon kind of fell in my lap. I got a DM from someone who works for them. It was like, hey, like saw that you're, a free agent. Like, are you interested in Lululemon? And I was like, Lululemon doesn't sponsor runners. Like what? This is in January of 2021. And they were launching a shoe. It turns out they were working on a running shoe that was confidential at the time. And so they were looking for a pro runner that could help them champion this shoe and get into the running space. And so the timing was just amazing. And it's been an incredible experience working with them, just like kind of night and day different than what previously I thought a sponsorship, could be or should be. This is much more a partnership, and what I want to do and kind of my goals and my mission and my values are being like, how can I support you in that? How can we back you in that? Rather than me kind of being the one pushing that brand's agenda, if that makes sense. So it feels very like much more like a partnership and much less transactional than any kind of relationship I've been used to, which is, it took me a while to get used to, honestly. I was like, are you for real? Like, are you sure? Is this a trick? But it's real. I've been with them 2 years now, and they practice what they preach, and it's not just lip service. It's real life. So it's been amazing, and our team is growing. We have a lot more track athletes now, which is really fun to be a part of too.
So I guess lesson to athletes: check your DMs, because one in every like 50 will be valuable.
And I get so many trash DMs and so many garbage, like spammy things, that I almost was like, is this real? And then it was like, yeah, no, it's very much real. So yeah, check your DMs, guys.
That's awesome. Well, you're not only an athlete, you're not only a track star, you're not only an advocate, you're also a world record holder in the 4x 1500 meters relay. People always say records are meant to be broken, but like you don't really want it to be broken
No.
anytime soon, do you?
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy thing that happened during COVID. I was part of this pretty big team, and we were training together in our own little bubble in the summer of 2020. And we went to high altitude in Park City, and we were just all living together in a house and kind of like quarantining together and training together. And we got done with that camp, and we put on some races that were just us against us, like intra squad racing. We put on the uniforms, and it was at a small high school track. There was like limited people that were allowed to be there, like friends and family, basically, like loved ones. But we had some actually really amazing races. I ran a 15:10 5K, PR'd in the 5K. I ran a 4:0, I think it was like a 4:05 1500 and a 2:02 800, and then we ran the 4x 1500 and broke the world record. So it was definitely a tough summer for a lot of reasons, but we definitely made the most of it. And it's just not an event that's run very often. And we were like, hey, we have the women to do it. Like, let's take a stab at this thing. And so now I can say I'm a world record holder, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I guess if it's going to be broken, you could just break it again, I guess. But other than that, we don't want it broken.
The dream would be to get a Lululemon squad together and re-break it and run even faster. So put that on the bucket list.
Yeah, put it on the calendar. I think it'll happen. You mentioned that that difficult summer coming off an Olympic performance at the 2016 games. You are an Olympian. You've participated. So just to break that down, like your arrival in 2016 in Rio. You get to the Olympic Village. I assume it's insane. You're getting like swag. I assume. Like, I'm sort of just making this up because I don't know what it's like to be there. What is it like? Is there a difference between knowing you've made the team and actually showing up at the Olympics and realizing, this is next level? Or are you prepared for that?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll take this opportunity to say that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a really common thing for Olympic athletes to be working their whole lives toward this one event that, for track and field especially, we don't have a Super Bowl or anything. Like, the Olympics are everything for track and field. So you oftentimes work for many years dreaming of this thing, and like you're saying, you have expectations in your mind of what you think it's going to be, and you like kind of imagine it. And then I think what happens a lot is you get there and you do it and you see it and you're like, okay, that was it, and then you come home and you still live in the same house, and you still go to practice every day, and like your life kind of just keeps going forward. And it's very common to have what they call like post-Olympic blues, or a period of depression right after, because it just feels like you work so hard towards something, and then in reality, oftentimes you might think that it might change your life in a certain way, or that, it might change you, or that something just like amazing is going to happen. And oftentimes, even when something amazing does happen, you realize that it was just a moment in time, and life goes on. And so that can just be really tough for a lot of people. And on a very serious note, we actually lost a member of Team USA this week, Tori Bowie. She ran in the same Olympic Games I did in 2016, and struggled with some mental health issues afterwards. So yeah, it's a very, unfortunately, very real thing, but something that isn't talked about as much as it should be. And so I think it's just important to note that, yeah, it's a big deal to go to the Olympics, and I want to go again, but I know also that can't be everything. And there has to be, I love my life with or without the necklace that I wear. It's, either way, it's amazing, and trying to enjoy every day, and going to practice, and just like having fun with teammates, and doing the sport that you love every day. That's really what it's about.
I appreciate you being so open about that, because I knew you would be, because I read your 2020 diary, and I was going to ask you about it, later. Regardless, I was struck by your comments on mental health, and just
Yeah.
sort of, maintaining that consistency, and that's something that, I'm not a runner. Sometimes I wish I was, but I'm not. But it, like, during 2020, it was all about maintaining consistency for me too. Like, you wake up, you're in the same place. Nobody really has that escape. Some of us used to, and then we didn't anymore. So I'd love, for you, as much as you would like to, expand upon sort of how you were able to find that middle ground during such a tough year.
Yeah, honestly, it's something I still kind of, think about on a daily basis, of like, it's this weird. I'm writing an article for I have a little newsletter. I call it a newsletter. It's not a blog.
No, it
Don't call
wouldn't
it a
be. I
blog.
I will never call that off. I will never do that.
I have a little newsletter I call the Steeple Squigs Update. And I send out a monthly email to subscribers. And I'll share, like, maybe like a workout I've done recently, or a recipe that I've tried that I'm loving, or a playlist that I'm listening to, all kinds of different stuff. And sometimes I write like little articles or whatever about something that's going on, or if I was going through an injury, I'll like write about tips about how to deal with injury for other athletes who are dealing with stuff like that. And right now I'm writing a piece about it's kind of a weird topic, but it's like this idea that I have about when I was part of my old training group. It was very much like, win at all costs, do whatever you have to do to get there, kind of single focused. Like, my coach was quoted one time saying that he would live in a sewer if it meant that he got to go to the Olympics. Like, that was the mindset. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's a little messed up. Like, I don't know if that's super, like, yeah, a little toxic. But at that time, like, that's when I went to the Olympics, and I went to world champs 4 times. And that's when we set that world record and stuff. And then I went through a period of about 3 years of back-to-back injuries where I just couldn't stay healthy. I just kept getting in, my body just kept breaking down no matter what I would do. And so then I like had to take a step back from that intensity in that environment, and be like, and because I was miserable. Like, once you took away all the things that was getting me through, like all the achievements, and I was injured, I was like just so miserable. And I was like, I can't live like this. Like, this is crazy. And so I tried to figure out how to set up my life in a way where I could be truly happy first, and then figure out how to get the performances, in addition to being happy. Just, I felt like it just wasn't worth, living in that way. I was doing long distance with my now fiance for 9 years because I really wanted to like chase this Olympic dream. And so at a point I just said, like, no more, I can't do it anymore. But now I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I'm healthy. I have this amazing partner in Lululemon. I have a few other sponsors who have backed me through injuries as well. I was able to buy a house in Flagstaff, Arizona, where I do my high altitude training. I'm able to live in person with my fiance and our dog. Like, I have this training partner who is just an amazing human being who I love, sharing miles with, like all these things that are like set my life up in a way that just how I imagined. But I'm yet to like get to that like top level of performance. And so this article I'm writing is like, can you have it all? Can you have your cake and eat it too? Do you have to sacrifice like happiness and well-being in order to achieve the pinnacle of sport? Because you see these athletes like Michael Phelps and many others, and Simone, and many others who have come out and said like, yeah, I'm like the GOAT, but it's like not all like as great as it seems, and they're like very tortured during that time when they're like achieving greatness and like on TV. So this is very long-winded, but I'm like, can you have both? I want to say yes, and I want to prove that you can. But basically, long story short, like that's the journey that I'm on right now.
Well, it definitely sounds like you're much closer than you were when your coach was saying you should live in a sewer. Like
Yeah.
it's just a
Yes. And I think it's such a process, and I'll like figure it out eventually. But also just like being open about it. Like we talked about this for like an hour during a run with some athletes here in Flagstaff the other day, because I had posted about it on my story. And so they asked about it, and I just wanted to know everyone's opinions. And so, yeah, we were just like all talking about it and stuff. And I mean, even just opening the conversation, and hearing people like have different opinions and stuff, I think that's really helpful, and hopefully will move the narrative forward that, hey, you don't have to live in a sewer to make the Olympics. Like you can be happy and successful at the same time. So that's been cool.
yeah. And you can be from, really anywhere, from FSU or from a smaller school like you mentioned. I'd love to ask about your fandom a little bit before we sign off. I know you're from St. Louis.
Yes.
Did you grow up like a proud St. Louis sports fan? There's this tradition. There's a lot of celebrity St. Louis fans. I feel like I always talk to the Kansas City people, but there's Jenna Fisher. I mean, Tom Sandoval. I don't know if you watch Vanderpump Rules as a big St. Louis guy. They're out there now. Like, did you grow up in that group of fandom?
Kind of, not really. I don't know. I am not like a huge, of course, like, I don't know. Of course, like I'm a Cardinals fan, and like grew up like doing like, I don't know, we like would go to Blues games sometimes and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, Jenna Fisher went to the same high school that I did.
There you go.
Shout out Nerix Hall, go Markers. But yeah, I don't know. I think, and Lori Chalupny actually went to the same high school I did too. So I feel like that was a big deal when I was in school there, being like, yeah, like someone on the women's national team that came from my school. I think overall St. Louis was a great place to grow up. I love like being from the Midwest. But now I spend half my time in Flagstaff and have my time in LA. And I'm like, I don't understand why you can have mountains and ocean and it's 75 degrees every day. And I would like go back to like the winters in St. Louis are brutal. The summers in St. Louis are brutal. You get like a month on either end where it's nice. And like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make that sacrifice for my children to grow up in the Midwest. Like, we're California people.
There we go. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, that clarifies it, because I don't know. I can never tell. It's almost like I'm not from the Midwest. I'm from New York, and I've never really
Oh,
strayed.
nice.
Yeah, I've never really strayed, but every time I go, I'm a huge baseball fan. So
Do you
during
go to Cards game?
childhood, been a Cards game. I took like
Yeah.
I used to sort of set the summers aside with my family. We'd like do a baseball road trip somewhere. And so we did like St. Louis, Cincinnati. We knocked out all the Midwestern cities. Every time I was there, I was always like, this is so nice. But then I would leave and just like be out. And I was also during the summer, so I never experienced the winters. But I do still think about Ted Drew's frozen custard. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's as big a deal for you as it is for me, but I could not mention it on this call.
Yeah, the Ted Drews is totally a big deal. Like there's certain things I have to do when I get home. It's Emo's pizza and Ted Drew's frozen custard. Like those are definitely musts. And then I run in Forest Park, which is like an amazing I know you don't like running, but it's an amazing place.
It's not that, no, it's not that I don't like it. I'm just not good. I was gonna rap with that, but no, I'm just not good. I want to be able to do it. I just can't. But
Well,
on
Adam,
the
I'll have to say is a lot of people think they're bad at running, but it's just because they don't do it enough. And when I'm out of shape, like if I take a couple weeks off at the end of the year, or if I get injured and have to take time off and then I try and get back into running, it feels like garbage. It just feels horrible. And every time I'm like, this is why people hate running, because when you're out of shape, it feels horrible. But you have to, like, it's one of those things, you have to stick with it and then it gets easier. And then as soon as you find like your run flow, and then you're like, oh, this is what it's all about. But I mean, it's a lot of work to get there. So I don't blame you.
I mean, I was the one who you know how they used to cut the presidential physical fitness test off. If you couldn't get the run done in 15 minutes, they're like, all right, you did it in 15, like you're done. I once was walking around the entire track and someone yelled out, it's like 14:30. And I was like, oh my, no. And I sprinted and I got a 14:56 and I felt
Nice.
so good. But like, that was me. I was the one who was like wandering in a circle and they're like, you literally have to finish this or else we're going to cut you off and give you a 15.
Maybe you're a sprinter.
Yeah, maybe. You never
That's what I
know.
got out of that story.
It feels good to hear it, and an Olympian told me that, so I guess it must be true. I'm gonna tell everybody. Yeah, fantastic. Before we go, also just what is Emo's Pizza? Because this is not the first time I've heard this on a podcast, but no one ever describes like why is it different? What exactly is it? Why do people in St. Louis love it so much?
Okay, you'll learn everything you need to know from the one bite everybody knows the rules video about
Mhm.
Emo's Pizza. You'll learn everything you need to know, but it's basically, so it is like very, 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 very thin crust pizza. And then there's like, I forget what the cheese is called, but there's like a special kind of cheese that they use. I'll have to Google that. It's been a while, but yeah, it's like a specific kind of cheese that they use, and then just like cracker thin pizza or dough.
Okay, perfect. I think I'm into it. I don't know. I'll have to be.
One of those things. If you grow up on it, it's just like nostalgic. And I think if you tried it in, as a grown adult, you'd just be like, what the heck is this? But when you have memories, it clouds your whole judgment.
Yeah, well, I'll pledge if I try it, I'll tell you I like it, even if I don't.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
because
And if
you
you
were
don't like
kind.
it, just go to emo or just go to Ted Drew's after and forget about the whole thing.
Yeah, you were kind to me. You called me a sprinter, so I will be kind to you. I will tell you I love this pizza, regardless of
Perfect.
whether I do. Colleen, thank you so much for talking to me. You're at Steeple Squigs on Instagram, right? And
Right.
also, how did that handle, like, when did you get that handle and you're like, I nailed it. This is my handle. Like, is that an old childhood nickname?
No, actually, my college coach, when I got to FSU, Coach Karen Harvey, started calling me Squigs. And then I run this event on the track called the Steeplechase. And so Steeple Squigs came to being my freshman year at FSU. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's where people can follow you. And is there anything else you'd like to plug?
The only other thing is my website is colleenquigley.org because she is an organization. And you can check that out. And that's where you subscribe for the newsletter as well.
Good, good, good. I think I have adamweinrib.gov, but I think I should probably get
Oh,
an org. It's probably better. No, I don't. I don't
nice.
have that. Thank you, Colleen. This was amazing. And best of luck in training moving forward.
Thanks, Adam. Have a good one.